Hi folks, I'm Steve Hindy for Showing Animals Respect and Kindness. In November 2021, two docuseries, Carole Baskin's Cage Fight and Tiger King 2, used shark drone footage in their productions. The shark team had a larger role in Cage Fight. If you haven't seen it yet, we hope you will real soon. We thought Carole Baskin's Cage Fight was good, but it wasn't long enough to use all the damning evidence we had uncovered, so we're releasing this video. Our footage mainly focuses on Jeff and Lauren Lowe, but also includes Jeff Lowe's son, Taylor. We think it's important that people see just how badly the Lowe's animal victims were treated. I wish everyone who supports animal captivity would spend a few hours in those cages. Unless you've been incarcerated in a Viet Cong prison camp, I don't think you can possibly imagine what it would be like to be confined to this environment for weeks, months, years, for as long as you live. The Lowe's victims also suffered from inadequate shelter from inclement weather. A tarp does very little to protect an animal from the ravages of an Oklahoma winter, and the winter of early 2021 was particularly brutal. Our observations sometimes uncovered physical ailments, like an apparent hip problem for this lioness. The government case against the Lowes referenced many instances of sick or injured animals who received inadequate medical care. We first went to the Lowe's Thackerville facility in December 2020. Our last trip was there the following May, 6 months later. The obvious boredom and stress endured by the animals was ever present from the beginning of our investigation to the very end. It was really depressing for all of us just to have to watch it. This isn't a life, this is hell. And it was a dirty hell, complete with garbage being served instead of real food. The behavior of the Lowes supported the argument that these people should not have animals, or children for that matter, in their care.
Whether it's legal or not, it will come down.
Whether it's legal or not, you'll shoot the drone down.
Yes, I'll face the repercussions if I shoot the drone down.
The Lowes turned the entire property into an oversized garbage can, and the garbage extended right to their front door. The remains of animal carcasses were strewn about, mixed with other trash, including containers of various chemicals that were visible on the surface of the standing water. Breezes coming off the property carried an ungodly stench. When the rains came, as happened a lot in the spring, those pollutants were moved to other areas, including neighboring properties. Clearly, the Lowes did not care about or respect their animals, or their neighbors, or in my opinion, even themselves. Predictably, the Lowes were not happy about our documentation of their cruelty. Our opposition waving guns around is nothing new for us. We weren't intimidated. Jeff Lowe's son, Taylor, spent days shooting at sharks' drones, but his incompetence was frankly embarrassing. I publicly advised him to close his eyes when he pulled the trigger to improve his chances of hitting something. On May 18th, the federal government finally came in to remove the exotic cats from the Lowe's Zoo from Hell. Our drone filmed as cage after cage made its way to trailers and an opportunity for these poor animals to finally enjoy better lives. As one of his final efforts to intimidate us, Taylor Lowe resorted to racing his vehicle at approximately 100 miles per hour just a few feet from where we operated, next to a narrow country road. Poor Taylor. As usual, he was wrong. Like father, like son. For those who have any lingering doubts whatsoever about the Lowe's abuse of animals, they should have a look at the federal case against the Lowes, which ultimately resulted in the exotic cats being removed. Here are just some of the more noteworthy points of the government's case.
The Lowes failed to employ an attending veterinarian and failed to provide timely and adequate veterinary care to the animals in their possession. The Lowes burned or otherwise disposed of the carcasses, including tigers, in makeshift pyres. The Lowes have regularly provided food to their animals that is unwholesome, unpalatable, and/or contaminated, and of insufficient quantity and nutritive value to maintain the animal's health. The Lowes have routinely separated their big cat cubs and ring-tailed lemur pups from their mothers at too early an age for exhibition and interstate transport to other roadside zoos, resulting in physical and psychological harm. The Lowes failed to maintain adequate enclosures. This thereby allowed for at least one senior tiger to be attacked by other tigers, resulting in his death 3 days later. Neither Jeffrey Lowe nor the other defendants currently have a valid USDA Class C exhibitor license. Nevertheless, defendants continue to exhibit animals to members of the public without a USDA exhibitor license in violation of the AWA.
We've included a link to the court documents in the description section of this video. Once the government removed the Lowe's exotic animals, we continued to monitor the treatment of the remaining victims, and there were a lot of them. We followed up with the USDA requesting that they also move the remaining animals to sanctuaries. Las Vegas investigative reporter Darcy Spears did a great piece exposing the Lowe's despoiling of the property.
At a May 6th inspection, a USDA veterinarian noted a strong stench coming from a pile of rotting animals attracting flies, as well as rotting carcasses inside some enclosures and a refrigeration truck covered in flies, likely filled with putrid meat.
And when the breeze would blow off their property onto the neighboring property where we were allowed to take off in the end, it was just rank. It was just vile.
We've included a link to that story in the description section. Because the Lowes had turned the property into a dump, there were tons of flies, far more than would be otherwise present. Tons of flies means vicious fly strikes, wherein the insects eat into host animals and they lay eggs inside. The eggs hatch into maggots who eat their host's flesh. This leads to infection, illness, and death. There were so many flies that the concentration was even visible to our drones from the air. This camel was clearly tormented by the flies as it constantly moved and contorted in a vain effort to keep them away. We continued to document everything so these victims could not be forgotten. In the early morning of June 5th, 2021, the Lowes were arrested for DUIs in Oklahoma City. Partying and getting drunk was apparently more important than taking care of their animals. It should be noted that the Lowe's veterinarian made claims of not being paid, and the government claimed that the animals were not receiving adequate food or veterinary care. But when it came time to party, money seemed to be no object for the Lowes.
Feels like that.
Oh, doing good. Got the big money here.
On August 13th, Lowe finally relinquished the rest of the animal victims from the Zoo from Hell. On October 1st, the owner of the Zoo from Hell property filed an eviction notice against the Lowes, bringing an end to a story that never should have had a beginning. Joseph Schreibvogel, aka Joe Exotic, is in jail where he belongs. Jeff Lowe and his family of losers are for now without animals, and that is good. We hope the government will keep the Lowes from ever having exotics, or for that matter, any animals ever again. If this changes, and the animals come back into the lives of either the Schreibvogels or the Lowes, Shark will be there. I'm Steve Hindy for Showing Animals Respect and Kindness.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our channel to see more of our investigations and learn what you can do to help Shark help animals. If you'd like to support Shark directly and gain access to exclusive content, please consider sponsoring us on Patreon.